Order. I'll ask that you please rise for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. God, we thank you for the blessings you bestow upon us every day. We thank you for the way we were able to deal with the storm that came through. We know it's your storms, God, and we know that we have to deal with them, and we thank you for the ability to do that. Go with us, guide, guard, and direct in all that we say and all that we do. In our precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
How are you?
I'm here.
Council, as you know, every month we recognize the new employees that have come to work for the city and give them an opportunity to come before to be greeted by the public and by council so that they can have a time to know the folks that make decisions that affect them as employees. I'm going to ask from the police department, Martha R. Lowndes. Did I get it right, Martha? Thank you. Didn't? How do you say it, baby? Lowndes. Yes, Martha R. Lowndes. Next time I see you, I know. Finance, James E. Starbird. Did I get your name right, James? Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure. From our Public Works Department, Son A. Lent and Bernard Leach, Jr. And from Recreation, Wayne R. Mitchell. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring our folks before you because these are the people that have the opportunity to be paid to serve other people. And that's what we believe in the city of North Charleston. I tell people all the time there's two types of people that work for government. They're bureaucrats, and then there's public servants. Well, we don't allow any bureaucrats to work for North Charleston. They're all public servants. And the difference is a bureaucrat is somebody that tried to make it on the outside, couldn't, so they went to work for government so they could make it hard on those who did make it. And so we don't allow that to happen. We work with folks to enhance the quality of life. These individuals here are a part of 1,100 people that work for the city. And I can tell you, we've got an excellent workforce. Sure, we're going to always run into some issues, but we deal with it in-house and make things work for the good. Welcome aboard to the city of North Charleston. We look to many years of service to the public together. Turn around and let me introduce you to the people that appropriate the money to pay you with. That's the best way I can put it. And also the equipment with which for you to do your job. And they are very wonderful people. We've got people with less than a year experience, and we've got some with 24 years of experience. More? Oh, my Lord. Yeah. But, you know, it's every one of them are public servants that are here to make sure that you have the tools to do the job to enhance the quality of life of the folks that are out here. So thank you for choosing to work for the city of North Charleston. Welcome aboard. You're part of our team. Let's go. Y'all can go home now. Now I think we have the folks from our Animal Society have come to give us an update on the recovery that they went through. As you know, they're located in the city of North Charleston, right next to our public works facility. And we enjoy working with them. They really assist us a lot in this city because we probably have more animals picked up in the city of North Charleston and far by far than any other area of their jurisdiction. So please come forward, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Summey. I'm Joe Elmore, CEO at Charleston Animal Society, and good evening, members of City Council. What I'd like to do is just give you a brief update and, with the permission of the mayor, change a little bit of the agenda. We were originally scheduled to be here to recognize one of North Charleston's finest, Patrolman First Class Thomas Belancioni, and the work that he did with a case that became a national sensation about Caitlin the dog. And the reason animal cruelty cases are so important is because what we know is that over the last 20 years, study after study has shown that folks that prey on the defenseless animals will do the same thing to women, children, the elderly, those that cannot defend themselves. And that's why it's so important, in addition to it's certainly not right for the animals. But Charleston Animal Society is very proud of its partnership with the city of North Charleston. And I just want to bring your attention, we brought magazines for the audience and everything. But we launched this magazine, Carolina Tales, about 2 years ago. And this has become the largest pet circulated magazine in the state of South Carolina. And I just want to let you know that on the cover is one of North Charleston's finest, Patrolman First Class Thomas Belancioni. But we'll recognize him at the next meeting. What I do want to do is talk to you about the growth of the Animal Society and its capacity. Right now, as I speak, the staff are out evacuating animals up in Horry County. Also, in Georgetown County, we brought in a group of animals to avoid the flooding up there. And we have a group that's up in Chesterfield County, up on the North Carolina border because of the flooding coming down from North Carolina, and they'll come back late tonight. Now, we have been doing this since prior to the storm, and we'll do this through that peak flooding, particularly from the Waccamaw River up in Horry County. We could have never done this 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, but with the support of this city and the council and a number of members of the community, we've been able to grow our capacity so that when something goes wrong in South Carolina, your Charleston Animal Society, located right here in North Charleston, is the anchor that so many organizations depend on. And I'm sure I've missed some of the evacuation. One of the evacuations is Dorchester County, and we've been evacuating those animals since before the storm. And I'm happy to report that not a single animal has been lost, and at the same time, we have nearly 1,000 animals in our care, either directly or indirectly. I'm very proud of that. And what I'd like to do is to segue into how we grew that capacity. And since we're going to recognize Patrolman First Class Belancioni, young man, next time, I'd like to talk a little bit about the leadership that got us to the point that we are and recognize another young man. John Cawley has been on our board for 9 years and has seen the Animal Society go through some trying times, some real trying times. But because of his steadfast leadership of the Animal Society, it has grown to become a premier organization across the country. As a matter of fact, I will leave this meeting and go to another meeting where the Humane Society of the United States, located up in Washington, D.C., has a team of folks down here looking at a program that we're doing over in the Decorah, Cherokee area. And we've grown that program called Pets for Life over to Dorchester, Wayland, and other parts of North Charleston. So we have really become a jewel, and it's because of individuals such as John Cawley. John has provided just level-headed, common sense leadership, very much a worker behind the scenes. He's also become a good friend of mine and supporter and somebody that I can lean on and our staff can lean on. And I think he embellishes the spirit of the city of North Charleston so well because without fanfare, he comes over to the Animal Society, and it's a stressful job. It is a stressful job. And gives a pat on the back of the employees that need it. And he does what a board member should do at any agency or any organization in which they serve. So what I'd like to do is to recognize John for his years of service on the board. Now, we're not letting him go yet. He's on the most important committee that we have, and that's the governance committee. That's the committee that chooses our future leadership. And that's where we want John, is to be a part of choosing our future leadership and creating leaders that will serve half as well as he has served. And so I'd like to recognize this young man, Colonel Cawley, and ask him to come forward for a gift from the Charleston Animal Society. One other thing that I wanted to, then I have a special gift for Colonel Cawley. That was the official gift, but over the years that I've known Colonel Cawley, I've always noticed the admiration he has had for my croquis, holding up my glasses, the ones that say Alabama. He's always, each time that I've met with him, I can see him looking at it. And so I know some of you may be familiar with his dog and what he thinks about the dog and everything. He loves that dog like no other. So what I decided to do was probably help John out and class up the dog a little bit. And, as because John, we're not working him as much at the Animal Society on the board, so he probably has more time to get his dog out in public and everything. And I know he's had the dog in your office, Mayor Summey. So what I'd like to present to Colonel Cawley is an Alabama Crimson Tide collar and an Alabama Crimson Tide leash so that we can elevate the class of that dog.
I appreciate that too, but I don't think the dog will win.
Thank you, Mayor Summey, and thank you, council members, for your support of the organization.
The real winner in this is Moses the dog. It's not him. All right, Madam Clerk, please continue with the printed agenda.
Item 1 is a request to approve the minutes from the September 22nd, 2016 City Council meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson?
Aye.
Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King? Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summey?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 2 is the final reading of an ordinance amending the budget ordinance as adopted on June 11th, 2015, bearing ordinance number 2015-024.
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson?
Aye.
Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown? Mayor Summey?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 3 is the final reading of an ordinance prohibiting through trucks 6 tires or larger on Taylor Street, Highland Terrace Drive, and La Crosse Drive.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson?
Aye.
Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is the final reading of an ordinance to approve the sale of 3.94 acres at 1021 Aragon Street, North Charleston, TMS 47016000065, formerly used as the City Public Works Facility, for the appraised value of $1,200,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I do recall I asked for the appraisal, copy of the appraisal I've yet to receive. And also, am I wrong here? I approved the minutes without that being duly noted. So I will support this, but I still want the copy of the appraisal,
We'll
please.
get it for you, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Anybody else? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson?
Aye.
Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the first reading and a public hearing for an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 5636 Garrett Avenue, Charleston County TMS 473-1500060 from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Multifamily Residential, and concurrently amend the comprehensive plan's future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from single-family traditional to multifamily residential in Council District 8.
Eileen?
Good evening. So this is the proposed rezoning of 5636 Garrett Avenue. It is currently zoned R1 and is proposed for rezoning to R2. The property owner is Carl J. Garris. The area of the property is just over half an acre, annexed in 1972 and a part of Council District 8. And this is a picture of the property as it was posted for tonight's meeting, and an area of the property showing its location, one lot south of Remount Road on Garrett Avenue. And this is the zoning map showing that the property is currently zoned R1. There's an area of the parcel to the rear that is currently zoned R2. There's R1 to the south and B2 to the north along Remount Road. And the future land use map showing this property is designated for single-family residential, single-family traditional at this time. So this is a rezoning for a property developed with a quadruplex and a duplex. The 6 units on the site have been vacant for some time, so they cannot be reoccupied due to the property's R1 zoning. Given the existing multifamily development on the property and the adjacent R2 and B2 zoning, staff recommends approval and the Planning Commission concurred on a split vote.
Any questions by council?
No one is occupying the building at all. I thought it was a lawyer office or something.
No, ma'am. This,
But it's
That's
not.
another piece.
Oh, sorry.
This is an advertised public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, give us your remarks. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue? Hearing none, without objection, it is referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets next Thursday at 5 o'clock. Next item.
Item 6 is the first reading and a public hearing for an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 8561 Rivers Avenue, Charleston County TMS 485-00-00235, from B2 General Business to B3 Recreation, Commercial, and Highway-Oriented Uses, and concurrently amend the comprehensive plan future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from major business retail to highway-oriented use in Council District 3.
So this is the proposed rezoning of 8561 Rivers. It's currently zoned B2 and is requested for rezoning to B3. It's owned by First Reliance Bank, represented by EarthSource Engineering. The area of the property is 1 1/3 acres, annexed in 1974, and a part of Council District 3. And this is a picture of the property as it was posted for tonight's meeting, and an area of the property showing its location just north of the new Velocity Sports complex on Rivers Avenue. And this is the zoning map showing that this parcel and the surrounding parcels are all zoned B2. And the future land use map shows that the entire area is designated for major business retail. So the subject parcel is an out parcel of the Kmart shopping center on Rivers at Otranto and is currently occupied by a parking lot and an ATM. The applicant would like to establish a car wash, which is not a permitted use in the B2 zoning, so B3 zoning is being requested. Given the parcel's location along Highway 52 and the separation from residential uses, staff recommends approval and the Planning Commission concurred on a split vote.
Any questions by council?
Mr. Mayor, I have a technical question.
Yes, sir.
And I see this in several of our zoning amendment proposals tonight. First Reliance Bank owns this property, right?
Correct?
First Reliance Bank has signed this application, correct?
Yes.
They're going to put a car wash there?
No, I believe, I'm not sure if the property's under contract or.
Yeah, well, that's my point. We're saying that the owner's going to put a car wash there. Well, let's assume for a minute that we would go along with putting a car wash there. And by the way, by law, we're not supposed to even consider what.
That's
that
correct.
And then we approve B3 zoning. And then all of a sudden, First Reliance Bank and whoever this prospective buyer or developer is, goes away, but the B3 zoning remains, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Mr.
other
Mayor.
questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
being the city councilwoman in District 3, we have looked at this very, very closely. And to put a B3 zoning in this area that has been overly saturated with growth and development would really impede the residents, the homeowners in this area. So I am looking closely at this, and if somebody else could give me some more pointers, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can you clarify, you said the staff supports the rezoning
Yes, sir.
Who does?
Staff,
along with the
planning commission.
planning commission? Let me make sure I ain't on the wrong page, because I'm known to do that. This is 561 Rivers Avenue.
Yes, sir.
My
The
understanding,
notes reflect that there was a recommendation for denial
That
by the
failed to
planning commission.
pass. It-
failed.
Correct, it failed to pass, so I reported it as the converse.
Right.
But staff supports it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I thought you said that staff supported it and planning commission concurred.
That's correct.
a majority
You
didn't
support
vote for
denial? I'm trying to clarify here, because
The motion was for denial, and it did not pass.
Okay.
So the majority voted against
so
that motion.
the way the motion was postured, it was for denial.
And it failed.
Right,
But
but
it
it
failed.
failed.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
And I think the reason that the bank has to ask for the zoning change, the purchase of the property is contingent upon the zoning being verified. Okay. Any other questions by council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr.
This is an advertised public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and give us your remarks.
Mayor Summy and City Council members, I'm here to ask that you vote no on this car wash change request from B2 to B3. First of all, should there be a change solely for a car wash, of which are several already in the area, no need for another, it could more easily open the way to another vehicle sales lot. That may well lead to even more B3 requests until vehicle lots end up filling up the remainder of Rivers Ave, going even all the way to Triton Hospital. And this could possibly extend the serious traffic problem we already have at Rivers Ave and Greenwich Road, considered one of the worst in the state. Most B3 uses are not appropriate nor best in our particular area of the city, and why there is no B3 in our University Boulevard overlay. The city in the past has so strongly agreed with us that Sydney Ordinance Section 5.4 forbids any new highway orientation uses in B2 zoning in our overlay, even though in other areas, other parts of the city, B2 zoning allows for such uses. Another reason for denial of zoning change from B2 to B3 is to avoid any more vehicle-related businesses with increased traffic congestion should Kmart go out of business and the car wash ends up another vehicle sales lot with possibly more to follow. Rather, would it greatly benefit our neighborhood to have other B12 businesses there should we need to replace in the possibility of Kmart leaving the area. A good replacement would be a shopping area of small businesses, which would greatly benefit our neighborhood. In conclusion, it is in the best interest of the whole city to encourage mixed shopping in our area instead of more vehicle-related uses so that our residents can shop in there and not add any to the already congested traffic on 52 and 78. Therefore, please vote no on this car wash request change from B2 to B3. Thank you.
Please give your name and address so we'd have it recorded, darling.
Sorry, Mayor, thank you. Mickey Callisy, 8549 Delhi Road, North Charleston.
Thank you, dear. Next.
Mayor, council people. I'd like to reaffirm what Mickey just said. Would like to ask you to deny the rezoning. To reinforce what she was saying about the traffic area, I'd like to list that we have 7 new car dealerships in that 1 mile stretch, approximately a mile. 3 used car dealers, 1 recreational vehicle dealer, 4 gas stations, 1 with a car wash, 1 car rental, 2 lube service companies, and a service business right there as part of Kmart, Penske. We have a lot of traffic in that area. One of the things that we worry about with allowing B3 is there's nothing but B2 around it, and we're trying to keep from opening the door to have more requesting to go along that surface because of the congestion there. So I would like to ask you to deny.
Thank you very much. Name and address, please.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Dennis Iskett. I live at 2987 Edville Ellis Road.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Next. Yeah, I think the mic's on.
Good evening. Russell Coletti, 8107 Long Shadow Lane, North Charleston. Before I get started, I know as you move up in the chain, you don't get a lot of thank yous and Bravo Zulus and things of that nature. But I'd like to commend the mayor, your teams, the resources you've activated post-hurricane, doing the cleanups to help with the neighborhood, removing debris and stuff. You've all done a fine job. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, especially in Northwoods Estates, where your crews are working around the clock removing debris. And I thank you. And I thank each and every one of you for standing behind the mayor and getting that done. And I appreciate it. They didn't leave much for me to say. They pretty much covered it all. I'd like just to reiterate that it represents characteristics of spot zoning because there is R2 surrounding it. And it goes against the university overlay plan that we have in place to help control these type of things. I'd like to touch a little more on the velocity that's sitting adjacent to the property that they want to build this car wash on, which is filled with children on the weekends, all day long, and early evenings into late evenings. This would pose a problem with these children, possibly running out there, the safety issue. They pretty much touched on everything else. There's not much more I can add to that with all the extra car washes built in and around that area, up and down 52 and 78 corridor. And this would be a hazard in my opinion. We just had our Civic League meeting this past week, which I'm the president of, and it was unanimously opposed in that meeting, and they asked me to convey that information to you, Mayor, and the council representatives. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Russell. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Hearing none, without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee meeting, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday. Madam Clerk.
Item 7 is the first reading and a public hearing for an ordinance rezoning the properties addressed as 4831 and 4827 O'Hare Avenue, Charleston County, TMS 471, 1600, lots 17 and 18, from B2 General Business to CRD Commercial Redevelopment.
So this is the proposed rezoning of 4827 and 4831 O'Hare Avenue, currently zoned B2 and proposed for rezoning to CRD. The property owner is Empire Avenue LLC. Area of the properties together are just over 10,000 square feet, part of the original city and a part of Council District 8. This is a picture, or these are pictures of the properties as they were posted for tonight's meeting. And an aerial of the property showing, an aerial of the property showing their location at the corner of Empire and O'Hare Avenues. And the zoning map showing that these properties are zoned B2, as are most of the properties along East Montague. To the north is the Garco Park development, which is zoned PD. And the future land use map for the property showing these two properties have a future land use designation of major business retail. So the subject properties are located just south of the Garco project, as I mentioned. The applicant has requested CRD zoning, which allows for a mix of uses that seems appropriate to the current development of East Montague and the proposed development of the Garco area. Given that the property's major business retail future land use designation can support CRD zoning, staff recommends approval of the rezoning contingent on the recording of a plat abandoning the common property line, and the Planning Commission concurred unanimously.
Any questions by council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
CRD, does that include, is there anything that would be inclusive in that falls under industrial zoning? Any uses that would overlap?
I think there's some limited warehousing allowed, but they're fairly similar. The main difference being that it would allow for breweries and bars in CRD.
Okay. My next concern or question, and I think we've got a protective ordinance for the strip clubs. There's going to be none of that there, potentially?
That requires M1 or M2 zoning in addition to some locational factors, so it wouldn't come into play for this.
So there couldn't be one over in that Park Circle area if this didn't become a brewery, and
There-
it was rezoned CRD.
There could not be one at this location,
Okay.
whether there's other M1, I
That's
should say.
fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Hearing none, this is an advertised public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, give us your remarks.
My name is Gail Frampton, and I live on Sherwood Street in the Park Circle area. And I'm in my 19th year as president of Northeast Park Circle Civic Club. This property falls within the boundaries of our Northeast Neighborhood Council. I am very concerned about having this brewery so close to the Palmetto Brewery, which is going to be on the Garco property and which will have a full-service restaurant, tasting room with snacks, and will brew beer to serve with food on that location, and also to transport off-site to other establishments and locations. They came to talk to our members and said they were committed to the community and wanted to become part of the community and participate in events in the neighborhood. Our members approved their coming and the plans and the pictures for building on the Garco property. This unknown brewery, on the other hand, did not come to the neighborhood council until after they had met with the zoning commission. This brewery is going to be located on 2 tiny parcels of land and is located across the street from the Palmetto Brewery, separated only by one other business. Where will their customers park? They will not serve food on premises and may let people bring in food from other places. They will primarily serve different kinds of beer all day and evening hours. I do not object to anyone having beer or alcoholic beverages as long as they drink responsibly, but I don't want to see more and more drinking places happening throughout the historic Old North Charleston Business District. Many restaurant and eating establishments have licenses to serve alcoholic beverages along with food to customers who come to enjoy such beverages along with their meals. We are a family committee of all ages and races who have worked very hard to make it a good place to live. Do not ruin that reputation that we have worked so hard to accomplish. We love our old friends, neighbors, and newcomers, but want all to continue to enjoy this very special place called Park Circle. If a precedent is set by allowing more of these microbreweries to come into the historic Old North Charleston Business District, we will see the atmosphere change in our neighborhood, and we will become known as Alcohol Alley. It will be detrimental to the business district and to the community. Please don't let that happen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, was this a vote by the entire council, your group?
They all, we did not have a vote on this one that we're talking about tonight, but we did have a vote on the other, and they seem to really embrace the Palmetto Brewery. It's just, we just don't want things to change in Park Circle and in our business district. We don't want to get a reputation that we have fought so hard to overcome any of that stuff, and we now are going forward. New people are coming in, and we really love it. And it's not that we are against these young men, but we don't see two things right so close together, and we don't really want any more breweries in the business area other than the one brewery. But, you know, I feel like that y'all know, those of you who are sitting here have been in the Park Circle area, many of y'all almost as long as I have. And I've been there a long time. Since I was 5, I've been in the Park Circle area.
That's 12 years, darling. You're young yet.
Who said that?
I said 12.
I'm going to come up there and get you, man.
You have before.
I mean, we welcome those young men and their entrepreneurial spirit, but we don't think that's the place for them.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue?
Hi, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jeff Baxter, one of the co-owners of CityVolve. We're a North Charleston-based real estate development and advisory company. I'm also a homeowner in Park Circle, 5238 East Dolphin. CityVolve is the managing member of Empire Avenue LLC, and that's a group that owns the properties that we're talking about tonight. And we're asking for the rezone. Over 2 months ago, we were approached by Hank Hanna and Pierce Fleming. Both are here tonight, the business owners who would like to locate the microbrewery, and I think they have a really great concept. While my business partner, Jim Haley, and I were comfortable with the idea of the brewery, we didn't know these guys, and we took several weeks to get to know them, had a lot of meetings. And after that, we did decide to go forward with them to pursue the rezoning. And that was based on 4 things. First, they have a very strong vision and concept that revolves around creating a community hub. 2, a thorough and very well-researched business plan. 3, they're award-winning brewers. That's usually a good start if you're going to embark in this type of business. And then they do have business acumen, combined entrepreneurial, and then some corporate as well. So they really had a great story to tell, and we like that. In our professional opinion, and this is supported by a half dozen recent independent appraisals for various properties in the old district that we've been a part of or have had to order, the highest and best use for this area are high value and eclectic office, retail, food and beverage, and entertainment uses. The brewery concept fits within that category, and we're confident that the end product will become a true community asset, both in its appearance and the ongoing operations. I met personally with adjacent property owners and had no concerns, actually had a lot of excitement about it. And we've been hearing from folks around the neighborhood that are excited. We did meet with Councilman King and Northeast Park Circle Association, and Mrs. Frampton's right, it was after Planning Commission, but that was more to do with scheduling than anything else from our standpoint. But I thought it was a good meeting, and I actually heard a good amount of support. There was definitely some good questions that came from the crowd, but I heard some support in there too. But in addition to that, our company and me and my business partner have a personal interest in the neighborhood. I bought my house in Park Circle 10 years ago, bought on the vision of what Park Circle was becoming. Jim owns a house on Chateau that's a rental until next year when his oldest daughter graduates from high school, and that's going to become his personal residence. And we're attracted to these types of uses, and we want to live around those. We've also been involved in a lot of what I would consider community building type projects. 1070 East Montague, which was a former closed First Citizens branch bank, is now Lotus Vietnamese restaurant. And then we're working on a number of others, including redevelopment of the Beasley Mechanical site down on the end of the street, which we've signed up a mix of retail and office users, which I think people will be excited to hear about in the neighborhood. We're not quite ready to announce that just yet. So I say all that because I spend all of my time on this stretch. You guys see me I'm there all the time. And this is important to us, and I think this is a great asset and will be an asset to the community. So I'll leave you with that, and happy to take any questions, and Pierce is here too, can answer any questions about the brewery. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council? Yes, sir.
Hey guys, how are you? For who doesn't know me, I don't normally do this. My wife and I own the Chick-fil-A over in Tanger, and I'm here tonight as a character witness for these two gentlemen that are looking to open this brewery.
Give us your name.
Sorry?
What's your name?
Rick Blind, sorry.
Sorry.
Very nervous, sorry. Like I said, I'm here as a character witness for these two gentlemen. I've known them for over 8 to 9 years, and this is one place I will bring my kids to. It's, I know that the character of these guys, and I'm here to stand up and just say, this is a good decision. I'm a homeowner here in Park Circle. My business is here. This would be a great addition to our neighborhood. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it.
You didn't bring any nuggets?
Mayor, Summey, members of council, my name is Pierce Fleming. I live at 1735 Sailmaker Street in Charleston. And I'll start by saying that Rick is welcome to bring his nuggets, and we'll be glad to serve him for him. The question of food, I'll go ahead and address that first. We will serve food at the brewery. We will have a small kitchen, a warming kitchen, if you will, to serve food at the brewery. We will not have a large, full-scale, full-service restaurant in the brewery. That is not the business we will be in. We think that is advantageous to the current Park Circle business community because that will allow us to not be so vested in a kitchen and restaurant that we can't allow folks and invite other vendors to have their food brought into our location. I won't belabor any points other than to say we appreciate the opportunity to meet with the community associations. We had another meeting this week that was scheduled, but obviously with storm-related activities that had to be canceled. Not only did we want to meet ahead of zoning, and we went forward with that plan, we want to continue to meet with the community associations after we open about community events, because as small business people, this is not just our way of doing something and making a product we are very passionate about, but creating a community hub and then using that business as an avenue to give back to the community as well by being involved in community events and those kind of things. I've been happy to answer any questions from an owner perspective as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue?
Thank you. Stephen Kennedy, 1182 Braddock Avenue. next Monday, the Planning Commission will be addressing another rezoning request a few hundred feet away from this property. That one will be requesting to go from B2 to M1. I'm opposed to this project on the grounds of the rezoning. I'm not against more alcohol sales, nor am I opposed to any business coming into the old village that meets the current zoning. I would not oppose this request if there was any way you could legally attach the rezoning to the business rather than to the property. We are looking more than just a few years into the future. In my 45 years in the food and beverage industry, I've seen it become trendy. Spa cuisine, martini bars, cigar bars, restaurants loading up with salad bars, every place offering blackened seafood or chicken except the Chinese restaurants. Wine bars have dwindled. A recent report said that a larger percentage of new full-service restaurants are offering full-size entrees rather than tapas-sized small plates, indicating a plateauing of small plates. The trends may not disappear entirely, but they will fade tremendously. Current trends are breweries or brew pubs, farm-to-table cuisine or local or and craft cocktails. If you are in the food and beverage business for the long haul, you focus on food. For fast money for a shorter term, you center on alcohol. Bar crowds are fickle and run off to the next hot spot. As an example of that, tomorrow we can all go to Breck's place for a steak, but we will not be meeting afterwards for drinks at the Purple Tree Lounge. The applicants who we met are both very nice people. I wish them well, but I wish they were not looking for a rezoning. They are turning a hobby into a business, and my first job taught me that food and beverage, you expect 10 to 12-hour days, 6 days a week. There are numerous ways for this property, there are numerous ways that this property could become vacant in a few years. Not enough sales to sustain the business, or the hours and the stress of a business are much greater than that of a hobby, or demand for their beer is more than their 6,000 square foot, 5,000 barrel a year facility can handle, so they look to move into a larger space. Or they need that larger space to expand into bottling and canning. Any of those, if reasons or any others, they're out of that space, we're stuck with a different zoning other than B2, which all the rest of the surrounding property is. Now, brew pub is allowed under B2, but not a brewery. Large difference between the two is a brew pub must sell their beer only on their premise and must prepare food in an on-site kitchen, not bringing in food from other restaurants and food trucks, as Pierce pointed out they might do or will do. There are 18 breweries in the Charleston area with 10 more in the planning stages, and that comes from the Post and Courier 2 weeks ago. And this is the only one I know of that has gone for rezoning. Rather than making their game fit the rules, they want to change the rules to fit their game, and I'm opposed to that. 3/4 of a mile away, literally 2 minutes, Sproul Avenue is also B2, but might offer less resistance to rezoning based on the businesses that are there. From the duck pond to the creek, the new bridge is ripe for improvement. That stretch consists largely of auto repair, ice plant, glass company, transmission shop, day labor office, the old B&S gun shop, check cashing, the city's now former public works site, convenience stores, Sing Heating and Oil. Rather than ride the coattails of the Old Village and Garco project, they could be the pioneers in the rejuvenation of an area like Sproul or Cosgrove, Reynolds, southern part of Rivers Avenue, that need an uplifting, much like Sesame, Majeroo, Richard Campbell's Coffee and Sandwich Shop, and EVO Pizza did when they took a risk on Montague when they joined the Idlewild, Aunt Bee's, and Johnny's. Half Moon Outfitters came in replacing a transmission shop. Places started opening at night. Montague was transformed. That can be done, but someone has to be first to go into another area. They have that chance. Right now on Montague, we hope we can find a parking space. Thank you, and I appreciate your no vote.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, without objection, this is referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday. Next item.
Item 8 is the first reading and a public hearing for an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 4401 Leeds Avenue, Charleston County, TMS 41000000079 from M2 Heavy Industrial to M1 Light Industrial.
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Then we have a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Then we get a report, too. Go ahead, dude.
So this is the proposed rezoning of 4401 Leeds Avenue from M2 to M1. The property owner is Drake Faber 5 LLC, represented by Holder of Properties. The area of the property is just under 7 acres, annexed in 1987 and part of Council District 5. And this is a picture of the property as it was posted for tonight's meeting. And the area of the property is showing the location just south of the Cummins plant at the entrance to the Plantation Isle neighborhood. And this is the zoning map showing it's currently zoned M2, as is the Cummins facility, and another parcel just north of Leeds. And the next slide will show the future land use map, which shows that this property was recently redesignated to light industrial in the recent revisions to the comprehensive plan map, the future land use map. And the subject parcel is located in front of the Cummins facility, as I mentioned, at the intersection of Leeds Avenue and Riverwalk Drive. It has been requested for rezoning from M2 to M1 to allow for the development of an office building. Given the parcel's recent redesignation to the light industrial future land use and the mix of surrounding uses, which includes single-family residential and office complexes, staff recommends approval of the rezoning to M1, and the Planning Commission concurred unanimously.
Any questions by council? Hearing none, this is an advertised public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, give your remarks. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue? Hearing none, without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Item 9 is the first reading and a public hearing for an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 1495 Remount Road, Charleston County, TMS 473-1400236 from B1A Limited Business to B2 General Business.
Eileen?
This is the proposed rezoning of 1495 Remount Road from B1A Limited Business, which is an unusual designation. We only have a few of them in the city, to B2. The property is owned by SK Squared, and the applicant is the Sanctuary for Sober Living, represented by Jim Davis. The area of the property is just over 30,000 square feet, part of the original city and part of Council District 8. This is a picture of the property as it was posted for tonight's meeting, and an aerial of the property showing its location 1 block south of Remount Road. There's a church on the intervening lot between the property and Remount. And this is the zoning map of the property showing it and the adjacent parcel are zoned B1A. The parcels along Remount are zoned B2, and the parcels to the south and east are zoned R1. And the future land use map showing that the parcel is designated for institutional uses. So the subject property is located one lot off Remount Road in the Charleston Farms community. It is proposed for rezoning from B1A to B2, given the its adjacency to a B2 zone property and its access through a B2 zone property. Staff recommends approval and the Planning Commission concurred unanimously.
Questions of council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Eileen, at the risk of being repetitive, I am going to be repetitive. And maybe Mr. Mayor Dirk could hear me out here and help me understand this. In the first application, B3 on Rivers Avenue, the owner of the property had applied for B3, and the bank was going to sell it to someone, and they were going to build a car wash. They were very transparent about it. Correct?
Sure.
All right, and here we have Cindy Bone Coates very transparently applying for this zoning, and she's not the owner. She is the prospective owner. Dirk, I guess the question that I have, again, without getting into the merits of this, is can anyone propose zoning changes for any parcel in our city? I mean,
well, if you have the owner's consent, you can, and they've got the agent of the owner here, I think.
Well, and so be it. But to make the point, the public policy point, that if we do this speculatively, the zoning is in place. It doesn't go away if the deal goes away. So, and I can tell this room is filled with folks who are concerned about this particular zoning. So, okay. So, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit more at committees, but as you go through our agenda, it's very, very, confusing about who are the parties of interest on the bottom line. And this is a really good example.
I think the issue is that you cannot zone for a specific use. So you're right. Whatever zoning goes to that property carries the usage of that property all the way through.
Right. And I guess that's my point, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for helping me summarize it. Because when we take action on these things, the deal may go away, the development may go away, but B3, in the case of the Rivers Avenue parcel, or in this case B2, will live on and will probably succeed all of us sitting up here. So this is a freak of law, Dirk? Is that what we should understand?
I think the unusual aspect of it is that it's B1A. Frankly, the rest of it is, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
That's what makes this parcel unusual. I think most of the surrounding is B2.
Certainly, council should consider all of the uses within B2 and really shouldn't look at the particular use or the particular user. Either the zoning is appropriate for that location or it is not.
And again, not to belabor the point, but you tell us what the proposed use is. How can we ignore that?
We could certainly omit that from the staff report moving forward if that's council's direction.
Well, I'm still a fairly new councilman, but we need to get it straight. And again, Eileen, I'm not cross-examining you. It's just a frustration as to what is the right thing to do in terms of public policy here. Let me just ask one last quick question. The proposed use here, which is something we're not supposed to consider, is described as temporary lodging. Those are our words here. But we know Cindy Bone Coates has been calling us, telling us rather passionately what she has in mind. Do we know whether or not, if all of this starts to move forward, whether there are other regulatory requirements that she has to meet? In other words, approval from DHEC or from some state licensing source?
I would presume that there are, but at this point, the question before council is just the question of zoning.
I do know that she would have to put an elevator in and also sprinkle the building.
Exactly. Mr. Mayor, those kinds of things.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor and Eileen and Dirk, I've got to say, from a perspective of my profession in real estate, and no disrespect to Mr. Jim Davis in the audience here, hello, Jim, but to my colleague here and his comments, I think one of the salient points we're trying to make here is we're positioning ourselves into the unknown every time we do this. And while we know, and it's extraordinarily evident, and it's impossible if the legislature or the courts want to think that this body can make any rational decision without having knowledge of anything a property is going to be used for. That's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard of, because every application that comes in here is disclosed. But my colleague's point here is that we may be putting the cart before the horse and wanting to approve something that we think is the ideal and proper zoning, because it is being disclosed. And we don't want to go down the road, often as we may, and it be something different. We're facing the same thing with what you just heard from the constituency here with the brewery. If it changes, what is it next? And it's unfortunate, but our hands are tied. And Eileen, you do a great job, and our staff and legal. But I think this is really a question of law that the legislature has got to get us help on, because it puts us in a very precarious situation, and it puts zoning in an unreasonable status. It's a crapshoot. And I'm pro-development, but I'm anti-interfering with community and sustainable quality of life. Absolutely. So we can face the issue in the music all day long, ladies and gentlemen, but this actual zoning and saying we are only supposed to rule on what the zoning request is, it's impossible and impractical to do that sitting on this body as a governing body when every application that comes in here. So either we need to retract what we're disclosing is going to be done, or if we're going to disclose it, then we're going to have dialogue about it. And if you do retract it, how are we not going to find out about it whenever you've got it publicly disclosed to the public? So I have to yield to my colleague here. We have some legitimate concerns. And Mr. Mayor, I'm not opposed to this. It's genuine stuff that we're sitting here as a body, and through training and education and law, we're being told we're not supposed to do something, but we're consistently being put in a position to where we may be subject to do it.
Well, to be honest with you, you're probably right. We should retract every usage. Property should be zoned based upon the merit of the property. And, and that's something that we may need to establish as a policy. But I can tell you, when you go before the planning commission, the first thing they're going to do is ask you, what do you plan on putting on that property? So,
indeed.
Mayor Summey?
Yes, ma'am.
My concern, not similar to theirs, is there's a church right there. In order for them to get to whatever they plan on putting, they have to go through the church property. And the parking lot, they have to walk through the church parking lot. And,
No comments from the gallery here now.
and from my knowledge, this church is very active. They have a daycare, and all kind of activity for children that is constantly there on a daily basis. And they have no way to get to that property without going through the church property.
But let me add to that, that church property is zone B2. So anything you're fighting against B2 going back there can go on that property if the church closes. It started out as a,
Flower shop.
Flower shop. So, you know, that's one of the things you got to remember. Whatever the zoning is, it can be used for. Accommodate that
Right,
use.
but they're asking for rezoning, Mayor.
I understand that.
Okay, but I'm saying, the owner of the property had an opportunity to sell the property to the church, but refused, I guess, not enough money.
We don't
But
get
the
into
okay, we don't get into that, but
That's
the thing is, that kind of establishment is needed, very much needed, but not in that location. Not right there behind the church, with children, with the daycare constantly. And I heard what you said, Mayor, but that didn't make any bearing to what I said, that they have to go through the church property to get onto that property if it's approved. It's not, it does not make sense.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Sam.
Bob.
Mr. Mayor, I've probably been in the government longer than anybody sitting at this table. And we've been doing this and asking people what they wanted zoning for since I came on the government in 1968. And if somebody had a problem with it, they look like they would carry us to court by now, don't you think? But they haven't carried us to court, and I'm going to continue as long as I'm here. Ask what they're going to use the property for. And we're not going to, I don't care about the legal thing. I don't care what the lawyer said. Let the court tell us. Now, if the court comes in and says you can't do that, then I want to obey the court order. But otherwise, I think we will need to know what it's going to do. We're going to continue to do that. Mayor, I hope you'll direct the staff to bring that, not change that.
Mayor Summy.
I'm not,
Mayor Summy.
I'm not too old to go to jail, Bob. You are. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Jameson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Summy and Council. I just wanted to take this minute to establish the fact that when we're doing zoning and we have an established community that's very active in growth and development, and are we looking at how the rezoning is going to negatively impact the area that's already established there? In my short time on council, I've seen over and over again wherein the land use plan was not adhered to.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Hart.
I concur with Ms. Williams and what she said. There are some existing problems with this rezoning, and we will take it up in the committee setting.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Do we know how many similar facilities are located in close proximity to?
I don't know of any. It may be, but I don't know of any.
Okay. Yeah, I visit the site this afternoon, and there are some existing problems there.
Anyone else? Council. Thank you. All right, now, let's work this thing in a reasonable fashion. Pastor, I'm going to let you come up and speak. And would you like to ask for everyone that agrees with you to please stand?
Everyone in agreement?
There you go.
Hasn't spoken yet.
He said, bring your wallets to church next Sunday and make sure you contribute to this now.
I thought we were taking up offering afterwards. For the city.
The plate, that's right, the plate passes to me in this building.
Well, Mayor Sumner and Council, just to say this is only a microcosm of over 12,000 members that are represented by the churches here today. 12,000 members total. And I want to thank them for their support here tonight. We didn't
Support for
want
what, sir?
support to oppose this rezoning, not to approve it, to oppose. Thank you all. Mayor Sumney and City Council, thank you for this time. I do respectfully ask that you oppose this rezoning. I thank you for your comments and concur with them that you're saying. I've been in this community for over 16 years in this community, and we've seen this community transform completely. From working with the Weed and Seed program, to being on the grant for that, to help running stings with the DA at the hotspot and closing down crack houses, establishing a pattern for drug dealing and paraphernalia, to making sure that they didn't, when they tore down single-family homes at the end of Attaway, that they put up viable homes. Our community, socio and economical system has grown tremendously. I tell everybody we are the secret of North Charleston because we lie between North Charleston and Charleston and everything else. And so we are prime property. And our value is continually going up. And I don't want to do anything to hurt the value of our property and, most of all, the safety of our children. I'm excited that it was B1 limited, and I did look into that, and I think that is divine. Because when you have churches and schools and daycares there, I think it should be limited what you put next to these things. Something that's going to bring harm. When myself, the mobile park behind our church, I called City Hall, spoke with yourself, Mayor, and we cleaned up that mobile park. And when we cleaned up the mobile park right next to us and the property next to us, we picked up syringes and crack pipes and those things out of the lawn that children were about to play on, that our children now today utilize in the community. We have 127 kids in our Children's Development Center. Faith Assembly has a number of theirs. Remount Baptist has theirs also too. And so we're looking at the safety. We think that this is a good idea, but a bad location. These type of facilities are typically located away from an urban development area. They're located in an area that is away from homes and houses. Ashley Hope is located in West Ashley, which is on 6 acres, away from everyone. There's another property in Texas that's located on 22 acres. Plus, this particular facility is boasting $700-800 per participant for 90 days. The hospitals have stopped doing 90-day programs because they don't work. Most of the programs are 12-month to 10-month programs. And again, we think this may be a good idea, but just a bad location. We cut a hole in our fence during construction because the community asked us to keep it open so their kids could cut through, get off. They get off on Remount Road and they walk through our property past this particular piece of property. And we're concerned. I grew up in West Ashley. I had family that grew up from the ghetto to Mount everywhere. And the one thing I always saw was little kids being asked to go purchase paraphernalia from those who are struggling in facilities like this. I do want to say this, that we know that the B1 limited zoning is special. I think it is because it's near schools and daycares, and I think it should be. We actually have, Mayor Sumney and City Council, we have over 200 signatures from people within the community on a petition that said no. Out of the 203 individuals that we spoke to in the daytime, only 2 people said no, and 1 guy said undecided because he thought we were the government.
Interesting.
One of our serious concerns too was that we were never made apprised of this project initially. We found out when Mr. Bob King sent us a letter about 7 to 10 days out from the zoning. So they thought there was no objection. Mr. David Crane is the president of the Neighborhood Association, and he is in agreement with us also too. And the community itself is in agreement with us also too, because we're trying to transform our community, City Council, and we feel again that we're moving in the right direction. We have, Mr. Brown, Mike Brown, you asked, we have 5 other establishments that do this in our community already that myself have checked out and talked with. And all of them, they drive in and then drive out. And it's a very good programs. And we've sent people to these programs. We actually have seen success. We help with these programs too, also with drug and alcohol addiction. And so we're hoping that you would recognize and realize that this is not a good idea to rezone this because, again, When you rezone this, anything could go there. And I have worked hard along with the other churches in this community. I have letters from the churches also too that state their objection to this also too. We do health day fairs, city council. We've helped now over 3,000 families in 10 years by giving health care to them free. We give out food. We adopted Dunston Elementary School, Hershey Elementary School, and North Charleston Elementary School, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we're constantly in the community doing work. This is my community. I don't plan on going anywhere. I've seen this community transform, and I want to see it continue to transform. Viable neighborhoods and all the other things happening in the district, I have paid close attention to also too. And I think it's a great thing that we're fighting for our community. We're being proactive. We're not being reactive here. And we're letting you know that great idea, but bad location. Please don't rezone this because it could drastically affect our children, our kids in the community, and our community as a whole. Even the gentleman who's right there on the side of this facility, named Miguel, I'm sorry, I can't really pronounce his last name, Aravita. He knew nothing about this facility. No one had contacted him. It was told, well, this should be a good idea for the church. Well, if it was such a good idea for us to be involved, why weren't we ever contacted to be involved? We had to find out ourselves. And when we found out, we have been a member of the Charleston Farms community since Mr. Ellis. God bless his soul. And Mr. Crane is doing a great job here too. And I don't know if he's going to get up and speak or not, but I do want to know the Charleston Farm community, all of us here, and the 12,000 people who go to the churches in these areas and live in these areas. I have letters from people in the community also who wrote letters saying they object to this facility also too. And so I ask you, our city council, please vote no on this rezoning and let our community continue to grow socio-economically and spiritually. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, I'm Lisa Potts Kirchner. I am a resident of Park Circle. I live at 5225 Parkside Drive. I also own and operate a statewide nonprofit on the old Navy base called Family Corps. I was asked by Cindy, I am not a potential purchaser. I have no investment interest at all in the sanctuary or this particular piece of property. She simply is having a grandchild today, and it took precedence. And so she asked me, as someone that she knew and a peer, to please come read her statement. I feel like she picked the hardest zoning issue for me to do that for, so thank you very much. But, Mr. Mayor, this is an issue, and members of council, that I am very familiar with. I have a young adult son that's in recovery, and I know that recovery is possible, and I just want you to know that. But what you have before you tonight actually really, like the mayor said, is just a simple zoning request. It's a property that fronts Remount Road, which can only be accessed from Remount Road, and has a Remount Road address, is currently zoned B1A, is requesting to be zoned B2. And it just turns out that every single property on Remount Road is also zoned B2. And at the end of the day, that's what you're being asked to decide. Is it a reasonable request to zone this property B2? And the answer, I believe, is reasonably yes. With the exception of West Vaco Park, every other piece of property is zoned B2. In addition, there are approximately 20 properties on both sides of Remount Road that do not have Remount Road addresses, are not accessed from Remount Road, but are 2, 3, or up to 6 lots off Remount Road that are also zoned B2. So it is a reasonable use of this property, B2, of which this property could be used in any way that B2 property could be used. So the issue of how it will be used really isn't before you all, quite frankly. You ask that information, the public shares that information, but that's not something that you're being asked to decide. And that, just to be clear. The city staff and the planning commission has agreed 100% with the assessment this property could reasonably be zoned B2. They've recommended your approval of the property being zoned B2. And I believe in my mind that in doing your job properly, you will agree with them. We respectfully ask for the same zoning land use currently available to this property, which we must cross in order to access the property. To be clear, there's a legal easement through the parking lot to this property. And the church knew that when they purchased their property. But there is that elephant in the room. These are in Cindy's notes. So let's talk about a little bit the use of the property, which is they're calling it the sanctuary. And I'll just stop and tell you what I know about the sanctuary and what its intended use is and what she described to me and what I've read about it. This is a recovery house. Addicts in recovery are not a danger to your children. And I'm sorry that some of you believe that. But these are going to be the criteria for coming into this recovery house is that you have to be medically detoxed. Then the other criteria is that you have to then write an close to $8,000 check. You have to agree to voluntarily go there for 3 months, and it's voluntarily. It's not mandated. If you want to use drugs, you leave. You just walk out the door and leave. And you'd be like a lot of other drug addicts on Remount Road. But you want to be in a safe recovery house. And this is going to represent a place of healing and recovery next to a place of spiritual recovery. And this is now going to be an opportunity for that corner of Remount Road to be a community of healing, spiritual healing, health healing. What is wrong in the world with that? I don't understand it because I know that recovery is a real chapter with people with substance use disorders. And I know that statistically speaking, many of you in this room have an addict in your family. And I'm telling you, there's another end to the story. It's called recovery. But if we don't allow resources in our community for people to recover, then they can't. So I just want to share that. And I just want to close, too, for the folks from the church, which you can tell from my shaky voice, I'm nervous. But it reminds me of the parable of the Good Shepherd. To me, Christ is the Good Shepherd. And he did not have to chase down the 99 who were doing well. He had to chase down the one that went astray. And he asked us to care for that one, to bring them in our fold and to care for them. That's spiritual. That's the parable of the Good Shepherd. And that's what this recovery house wants to do. And so I support it as a Park Circle resident, as a business owner, and I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Robin Smith. I live on Rio Street in Charleston Farms. What I wanted to bring a point to is that when the application was submitted, on the application, it says, reason for requesting rezoning. Buyer, the sanctuary for sober living, plans to operate a self-contained 90-day sober living facility, which requires B2 zoning or temporary or transient lodging. Buyer has met with the Charleston Farms Neighborhood Association at an association meeting, and the association is supportive. That was not true. So on the application itself, it's already indicating that our group supported this. Cindy and her husband came and presented it to 2 of our council meetings, 2 of our Monday night meetings. They just brought the idea. This is what we'd like to do. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Again, they approached, this is what we'd like to do. That's a great idea. We were not aware. Then we had a side meeting. The side meeting included the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and myself to meet with them for Cindy and them to go in depth about the plan of this facility. We sat, we listened. When we walked out of there, we never said, oh, Cindy, we support this and this is what we want you to do. So then it was brought to the zoning committee. When it was brought to the zoning committee, that's when the letter was sent out and the other churches were made notified that they were here. So it wasn't that she never presented it to the Charleston Farms community. She presented it, but there was never a vote within any of those council meetings that we stated that we supported this facility. So for me, I'm not coming to debate. I'm coming about, oh, is this a good idea or no? The fact is that when this application was submitted, it stated that we were in support of it, and that is not true. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I feel now I've got a responsibility to do so. I am David Crane. I live at 1642 Sumner Avenue, and I am the president of Charleston Farms. As Robin Smith just mentioned, Cindy and her husband Randy presented the proposal to us at a couple meetings, and then we had a staff meeting. What Robin said is absolutely true. We never said we approved. When I went to the zoning commission and spoke that night, I simply stated nobody had opposed. I never said we approved. I said I had had no opposition. Nobody at that point had came to me. I also was the first one to speak that night, and that was before the pastor and a very large group of people, not unlike what we see tonight, got up to speak. At that point, I realized, oh yes, there's plenty of opposition here. This 2 weeks ago, on Monday night, we had our regular council meeting at Charleston Farms Community Center. Some of you have had the opportunity to be there. It's not a very large center. It was filled to capacity, and I'd say 90% of the people there were from the churches in the area in opposition of the sobriety house. Now, I do want to say, we are not opposed to a sobriety house. It's a great idea. This young lady here, what she read, I assume from Cindy, very great idea. I am not opposed to it whatsoever. I think it's something that is needed. I will also mention, just for clarification, I am an associate pastor myself at a church in Goose Creek. I'm also an employee of a halfway house, which most people probably don't even know about, which is a halfway house for felons, which is located on Reynolds Avenue and Meeting Street Road. So I'm aware of halfway houses, even though it's different than what Cindy's proposed. Now, what I am told by Cindy is that these people will not be allowed to move, will not be able to leave the facility unless they're with a staff member, and that will be staff on site 24 hours a day. I believe that the idea she has is that whoever they hire will be living at the facility with the residents. Having a church in Goose Creek, I have to admit my own personal issue is I would not want to have people constantly walking across my yard, my driveway, as I'm trying to conduct services to go into a halfway house for whatever reason. I don't know about the visitation. I don't know everything about it. I'm going to be honest with you. I've met many times with Cindy. I have no problem with Cindy. I have no problem with Randy. I think what they've got is a fantastic idea. It's great. It needs to be done. But I have to say, as the president of the community, I have seen opposition more than acceptance. And as a representative, as you all are, you're representatives. I'm not a political representative. I'm not running for office. Don't plan on it, Bob. You're safe. I'm not going to take your office. But you kind of get put on a hot seat. But that's something I accepted. And I'm going to state for the record that to the best of my knowledge, and again, I'm not saying approval or disapproval, I am saying I have seen much more opposition for this than I have approval at this point. I never once said that we had voted for an approval of this sobriety house. I simply stated, just for the record, at that time, I had had no opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My name's Catherine Beaver. I live at 1528 Marietta Street. I have been living in Charleston in total for about 7 years. I went to college in Charleston, and I purchased my first home at the ripe age of 23. in the Charleston Farms neighborhood. It seemed like a great deal. I have great neighbors, and I go to my community meetings. It's an awesome place to be. The problem that I have with this rezoning is a similar one to what you stated of what it could potentially be used for in the future and what it potentially is going to be used for with this rezoning. So from my understanding, addicts and people who are in recovery are considered to have a disability. And under that disability, whenever they move into a home, if they cause problems, that community will have an extremely hard time doing anything about it. And whenever Mr. and Mrs. Coates came to our community meetings, the one question that I asked after they had already gotten their zoning approved was if they could just give me a little bit of information to calm my fears about this type of facility, because I may not know as much as they do, and tell me about their past experience. Tell me about their education and their time spent in addiction counseling. And while I appreciate that they have great advice from MUSC, they don't have any experience doing this at all. Charleston Farms, from just the mere year and some change that I've lived there, already has a little bit of a problem, and it's hard to see a facility like this going into it, because if it's not run by someone with a past record of success, it's got a potential to cause something very dangerous, and the residents won't be able to do much about it because fair housing laws and Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits us from doing anything about that. So as a resident, I feel that that's really scary to me, because I'm 25 and I'm not going anywhere. I want to raise my kids here one day. I plan on being in this community for a really long time. And while I may not always reside in Charleston Farms, it's where I bought my first home, and it's where I'm gonna have a special place in my heart. And so it's really hard for me to see a community that so vehemently opposes this going into this area and saying that it's gonna be okay, because I appreciate the passion that they have for what they're doing, but that passion only goes so far whenever there's no assurance that that program is going to be something that works. And once it's there, there's not a lot we can do to get rid of it. That being said, it's really unfortunate that they aren't here tonight, and I understand that there are extenuating circumstances, but I tried my best to gather information from them as to their experience, and they explicitly stated that they felt that this sober living facility would be an asset to our community. And I wish that they were here to say how they wish that they could have it be an asset to the community, because at the time of our Charleston Farms meeting, they could not. Yes, ma'am.
We're having a committee meeting, all of you, in a couple of weeks. Next week, I'm sorry. So everybody that's speaking now could speak again, and those that did not speak, if you want to speak, you can speak then. And if you want to come and full force like y'all did tonight, that's fine. But I feel next week they may be here, because I understand what you're saying. Everybody's talking, but they are not here to represent themselves. So next week, we are having a committee meeting, and the same thing y'all saying tonight, y'all can say it again at the committee meeting. So I'm not telling them, nobody not to come up and talk again, but
Yes, you are.
y'all, we won't be here.
okay.
We will be 5 o'clock next Thursday, third floor down in the room, Rutledge room. We may have to have it in here if all these people come out. But y'all, we will be hearing from y'all again, and I appreciate everything you're saying, and you're right. Wish they were here. So if they should be here next week and be given that opportunity. And my heart goes out to the program. I have a son that have been on drugs a long time. He's been clean now for 5 years. So the lady that spoke said, maybe we don't understand. Yes, ma'am. A lot of us up here understand. I went through a lot. But now my son calls me every day and tells me he loves me. So I know we need those type programs, but in certain areas.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
not that, to me, not that particular area.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll hear from y'all next
Thank you.
Thursday.
Thank you. Next.
No.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Let me just say, too, we need to, council, remind ourselves we're talking about a zoning, not the usage. Because I think the larger question here would be what would be to allow if this failed. And that's, to me, that's something that we have to look at, which means that it could be a restaurant with alcohol being served, except that the church could fight from them getting an alcohol permit, because if you're within, I think it's 300 feet of a church. But the way they measure that thing is front door to front door. So, you know, it's, and I think that's, I don't want us to get so focused on the facility that's being proposed that we forget that it's a zoning change, not a usage change. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I will speak briefly. I'm Yolanda White. My address is 217 Waterbrook Drive, and I am a member of the Revelation of Christ Church, but I happen to be a South Carolina licensed social worker as well as a licensed healthcare administrator. So I wanted to really answer one of the questions that was brought up by the council in terms of South Carolina DHEC laws as it relates to these types of facilities. So if you look at the DHEC laws, R6193, it speaks to the standards for licensing facilities that treat individuals for psychoactive substance abuse or dependence. And so certainly there are certain laws stated there. And one of the things that Cindy stated to us was that they could not leave, some other things. But when we look at what the law itself states and what the DHEC laws, certainly these individuals have the right to privacy unless indicated by this recovery program. It states that the clients shall not be locked in or out of their rooms or uncommon areas or even the building itself. There are certain laws that they have to follow for discharge, and she was saying that they cannot leave, and that is not true. Anyone that lives in a facility has residence rights. They are residents of that facility. This would be a licensed facility. So considering the residents' rights, these residents have the right to be free from restraint, which means it's not a prison. They cannot be made to stay there, and they certainly have the right to leave whenever they are at will. So their passage through the church parking lot, through the daycares on, certainly can be a danger to our children. Also, they have the right to associate and communicate privately with persons of their choice. Those are residents' rights. And there are so many other laws, state laws, as it relates to residents of any type of substance abuse or any type of facility that is licensed by the state. So we're saying that this is a substance abuse or sober living community. It does have to come under compliance of South Carolina state law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julie Lawrence. I live on Beresford Creek Street. I had a couple thoughts to share that's on the contrary side that I thought might be relevant to you. One thought that I had while listening to everybody is I've been to AA meetings and NA meetings, and by and large, most of them are held at churches. And those folks that are coming there, sometimes are sober and sometimes aren't. So they're on church properties already. I don't know if you house one or offer these meetings at your church, but the people are already coming and going. The only difference is that these people are wanting to get help, are committing themselves to 90 days to try to get better. I just wanted to make that point. I am, unfortunately, part of the families of addiction, watching our son struggle with this problem as well. I have an example to share with you of what a recovery house can look like when it works. I have a good friend, and I wanted to share some of the things that she wrote to me. And I'm here to advocate for this facility because while I may not need it, you all may need it someday for your loved one. And I hope that something like this will be there for you. So this is the mother of a son as well who is in recovery and living in a recovery house. His house was in a community in Brunswick, Georgia, very much like the community of North Charleston. The residents of Brunswick, Georgia welcomed her son's recovery house with open arms, and it couldn't have been a more wonderful experience, she describes. I read with a heavy heart the opposition and the concerns that have been written and shared tonight. I think like most of our nation, there's very little knowledge about addiction and recovery and many distortions about the two. Addiction is recognized by the medical world as a disease, just like diabetes, just like cancer. People who are addicts are sick. They're not criminals. They're not child molesters. They have no interest in your children. People in recovery from, we as fellow human beings should and can aid them in this process. Recovery homes are for people who have been through treatment and want a safe place to transition before reentry to their respective homes. Most recovery houses have 1 to 2 house managers who enforce rules, make sure that each house member is holding up their end of the recovery process. They're required to work full-time jobs, participate in community service, do chores to keep the house and yard clean. They're required to attend 1 or 2 NA or AA meetings a day, again, usually at churches. They have group accountability meetings and administer random drug and alcohol tests. Anyone who is not willing to follow and do what is required is asked to leave the recovery home. So any of these descriptions about breaking the rules, leaving or having somebody come who's not authorized, they wouldn't be welcomed back if they left. So it's not a loosely run home. It's a group of people wanting to get back to a healthy life. The home where her son lives is right next door to a church, incidentally, and the members of that church have welcomed those young men with the love of God and shared with them their hope and love. She witnessed such grace and mercy extended to her son and his housemates from that wonderful church. They embraced the call of the church and to help the downtrodden, not turning their backs on the least of those. They would bring food, donate clothes, and other items that they might need. So I'm asking that you please consider the use for this property as an asset to your community, and that you would welcome them to become active members, future active members in the city of North Charleston. I tell my kids to do the right thing, do hard things. Those are probably the 2 things that we encourage them to do the most. And ironically, they're usually synonymous. Doing the right thing is often the hard thing also. Everyone here I know wants to do the right thing, but we can't let fear about something that you don't understand guide your decisions. So let's do the right thing in this instance, and I believe it is to approve the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Jim Davis, and I'm the representative for the applicant, Cindy Coates. Unfortunately, she can't be here. She's in Washington, D.C. for the birth of her daughter-in-law's baby. I'm here on her behalf to ask that you all approve the rezoning request to B2. I've worked with Cindy for almost 2 years trying to find a facility to house this program. We've discovered this property, I guess, June or thereabouts, and moved along fairly quickly, but I know Cindy did have several meetings with the Charleston Farms Association. And in my conversation with the staff at North Charleston, I was given, I wanted to clarify the process, wanted to be sure we did things properly. And coming back to Councilman Brinson's comment, this application and the signature by the owner and the signature by the applicant and my name as representative, we're simply following the process as outlined by City of Charleston staff and the established process.
That's North Charleston.
I'm sorry, North Charleston,
Get that
apologize. Boy, that's a mistake. So I want to take just a minute. There have been a lot of conversation about what the facility will be and how it will operate. As I said, I've worked with Cindy for 2 years on this, and I've been through a lot of discussion about the program, the funding, how it operates, what other facilities are there like it, et cetera. And let me just hit some bullet points, and I can leave this document with you for your information. The Sanctuary for Sober Living is a self-contained 90-day sober living facility for newly sober addicts. Residents must have successfully completed a medical detox process, successfully completed the application interview admission process. Potential residents must provide proof of successful completion of detoxification for the medical facility. They must pass a pre-admission drug screen administered by the Charleston Center. They must agree to the terms and conditions of the program. And so the Sanctuary for Sober Living will be a member of the National Association of Recovery Residences, an organization recognized by the National Institutes of Health as a leader in current best practices for recovery housing. The Sanctuary for Sober Living is not a halfway house. Is not a halfway house. It's a structured program created in coordination with doctors at MUSC and Roper to provide an appropriate transition between detox and a sustainable, independent, sober lifestyle. Daily activities will be structured, participation is mandatory, and residents are required to attend intensive outpatient programs offered at MUSC and the Charleston Center. Private automobiles will not be allowed on the site. The sanctuary will provide transportation to scheduled appointments and programs, and chaperones will accompany residents anytime they leave the facility. Access into and out of the facility will be controlled via secured fencing surrounding the property with ingress, egress, access gates. The gates will be controlled with an access control activation system manned 24 hours a day. Residents will attend programs and doctor's appointments during normal business hours. Non-resident visitor access will be 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. So that center is not going to be administering medical treatment, if you will. If there's medical treatment required, they will go to the doctor. And they will be driven there, and they will be chaperoned, they will be escorted there. The maximum capacity was 30 residents, including the house manager and team leaders. So there's been a lot of conversation about what the facility will be and access and so forth. Currently, access to that property is across a 30-foot easement that was granted in the deed when the church bought that front property, because the same owner owned both those parcels. And so that 30-foot easement is established and has been used for several years now by the owner of 1495 Remount Road to access his property. So there's nothing new there. Additionally, in terms of uses, what we're requesting of the zoning of B2, the same uses would be made, should that be granted, as can today be made on the church property. So we're not asking for anything that's really strange and unusual there. There are a lot of, quote, programs of different types, but based on the research that we've reviewed, there aren't other programs like this facility in our area. There are none. That's been the driving force for Cindy and Randy to get this created. And in fact, this morning, I'm on the Linda Page's, Mayor Page's team for Mount Pleasant on the Affordable Housing and Homelessness Commission. We were in a meeting down there this morning, and as was Mayor Summey. And in fact, one of the topics that was talked about throughout the day is the need for transitional housing. That's really what this is. It's transitional housing. So this is not a halfway house that someone puts together and allows people to walk in and out simply so they can collect some money from somebody, and really provides no true service for those residents. This is a facility intended to help these folks who have suffered with addiction, have gone through detoxification, have become sober, and are working diligently and mightily to then go on and lead a productive life. And this transitional housing is truly a requirement. And I would suggest, and I understand if the congregation, I appreciate the work they've done, the outreach within the community is to be applauded. I would also suggest, and I'll take my neighborhood over in Mount Pleasant, I wouldn't want to argue that there are absolutely no drug addicts. There are no one that's addicted to alcohol or drugs or anything that lives in my neighborhood, because I know better. Unfortunately, we have that issue across our communities, each and every one of them, wherever they are. So I would just ask that you truly consider and vote to support this rezoning request to B2, because it is supported based on the current and the future land use map as evidenced by the Planning Commission unanimous vote and the recommendation from staff. And the outline of the program that they've put together is truly a very crisply defined, buttoned-up program with limits on how those residents can come and go, the services that are going to be provided there, and how they're going to be benefited while they're in that facility and helping them become a productive member of society. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time and consideration. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sir. Next.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Lee Moultrie. I live 178 Haynesworth Drive, across from Pastor Lance, practically across from him. He called me up a couple of weeks ago and brought this situation to my attention. I'm a U.S. Desert Storm veteran, Air Force, retired 1994. The thing about this is, I'm from Acabee. Michael Brown, right where he lives at, I live next door to his wife. When
Better half of the family.
Pardon me?
The better half of the family.
The better half of the family. When I was in the Air Force, I volunteered to go into a treatment program back in 1988. I've been in recovery since that point there. 1988. Had I had a church at that particular point that was right there accessible to me, that would make it even better for me and other individuals that were there. Fortunately for me, for those who are in the household of faith, I accepted Christ prior to going to the treatment program. And I understand the nature of treatment, addiction, recovery, and everything there is about the whole system. And that's why I've been able to do what I've done for 28 years, serving with Ms. Frampton and everyone else on the CSC many years ago. I think it's a golden opportunity when we, as a community, can open our arms, as the young lady spoke about a few minutes ago, and support individuals who are asking for help, no matter where it's at. That's what we're trying to do. And I know we'll come together next week and discuss that issue again. But that's the objective. I don't think as many people are as Pastor Lance shared. The church is one of the quietest things in the neighborhood. Quiet secret. But fortunately, I'm a quiet secret also. Him living across the street from me, he didn't know I was in recovery. His wife didn't know I was in recovery. Because what do we do in recovery? We don't have parties. We don't throw everything up in the air in order to live across the street from him. So we give individuals an opportunity to function within the society and live with us and work together. We can see people are being productive. From all the things that we have done in this society right here, I think that's a golden opportunity. I'll look forward to discussing it further with you next week. Any other questions that you may have for me, you can get with me. How you doing, Mike? And anyone else. I look forward to discussing it. I look forward to working with Cindy and her husband and the other team members and being an advisory board member, because when I've walked this walk for 28 years, I know how to help people achieve the goal of sobriety and being successful in life on many different levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Alicia Owens. I live at 112A Peach Circle in Goose Creek. I am actually the Mom's Morning Out director at Faith Assembly. I'm also the preschool teacher for the Sunday school class. I'm also the youth leader for our kids at Faith Assembly. Again, it is not a question of how much they are a danger to the society. It's a question of the location. You put these people in this location, and that's the only question. I'm not going to go further on that. What we have discussed about the location, B2, it's the B1A, the limited business. Why was the offer not to the church to buy that property? No one knew that property was up for sale. It was offered quietly. Who offered it? we were told that there was 4 people in the community that told her about this property. Who are those people? That's just a rhetorical question per se. What I do want to know is, why don't we build it in Mount Pleasant, which is closer to the MUSC hospital that they're going to be going to every single day? They're going to be busing them from there to MUSC. So why not put it in Mount Pleasant, away from the drug infested? I mean, we know it's drug infested. There might be some locations that, yes, it is part of the community. Everybody is part of the community, and there are people we don't know about that could be abusing. But what we want to know is, what about the property in Mount Pleasant? If there is a property in Mount Pleasant or West Ashley or downtown, if the facility is not going to be part of our community, if they're not even going to be part of that, then why not physically let the church buy the property and let them do with it what they want to do with it, instead of rezoning it, because we know that the church is going to do what they want to do with it. Thank you.
Just some comments first on your comments. Number one, any real estate transactions between 2 people that we're not engaged in, involved in the real estate transaction. How do I say this politely? I think you're hurting your cause by your comments.
Okay.
Because it's not about whether we help people or not and where it's located. It's whether it's located in a proper zone position. And currently it's not. And unless we change the zoning, it can't go there. So, and I think the pastor understands what I'm saying, that every one of us have people that in our families or in our close associations that have had alcohol and drug issues. And they're not those people. They're people who need help. It's just where it occurs and how we give it. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Steve Fowler Vaughn, 302 Beautyberry Road in Summerville, South Carolina. I am the kids pastor and outreach pastor at Faith Assembly on Remount Road. I'm going to keep it very short. I think this is a zoning issue, and I really think that's what the bigger issue is. And I think it's already set, and I don't think it should change just because this situation has come up. The main thing that I wanted to address is I've been involved in similar things such as this in Columbia and in Greenville, South Carolina. And for a 90-day facility, 90 days is just not enough time for recovery. I've seen people come and go, and I did see a lot of activity in our neighborhood, especially in Columbia, in the downtown area, where those guys would leave the facility, go right across the street and buy the drugs, and go right back to the facility the night that evening. Now, I know this facility is supposed to be guarded more, and I know from what I'm hearing them say now, there's supposed to be more security. But I do think that is something to really consider. But I know it's the zoning issue, and I think if we stick with that, I think it's already set in place, and I think that was divine. And so I request that you guys keep it where it's at, because I believe that that's the proper thing to do in this situation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let me make a couple of closing remarks on this issue. By the way, it will be addressed at the Public Safety Committee meeting next Thursday at 5 p.m. And the reason I want to address some of the issues is I will not be at that meeting. I've got a wedding that I've got to go to. Okay, but let me tell you my feelings. I know Ms. Bonecoats has been actively looking for a location for years, and she has tried in areas she at one time was trying to locate in the old Naval Hospital on Rivers Avenue. Some of the back units in the back, wasn't able to work it out. She actually offered to buy part of North Charleston First Baptist Church the upper level so she could turn that into, there's not a lot of residential surrounding that. It didn't work, failed. And I know she has a passion in her heart for doing these things and making them good things. The issue is, to me, the property is not zoned properly for it to occur. And the big issue is what could go on there afterwards with the zoning that is changed. When we designated a lot of those areas as B2, Charleston Farms was not in transition. Well, it was, but it wasn't in the right direction. And we've been trying to get that direction to come back. And we need to do everything within our power. Quite honestly, I don't think it would be a detriment to the church or a detriment to the community. However, I do believe that the detriment could come with whatever came later. And therefore, I will not be supporting the zoning change. But I think as people of faith and people of leadership, we should all try to make an effort to find some property or facility in the proper zoning that would allow these folks to do the mission that they want to do. And so I think that's something we've got. People, as you ride through communities and you see locations, and we can check the zoning if you let us know, because I know where Cindy's heart is on this, and it's in the right place. And I know she's become very frustrated over the fact that every time she seems like she's gaining ground, she slides back. And I think as a community, we should be trying to help her. I just don't feel that this is the proper location. And I just wanted my council members to understand where I'm coming from, because I will not be there Thursday night. Thank you all very much. This will be sent to the Public Safety Committee meeting next Thursday at 5 p.m.
Item 10 is the first reading and a public hearing for an ordinance amending Section 4-11.1 of the zoning ordinances of the City of North Charleston to revise parking requirements for on-site parking in certain zero lot line areas, such as the Old Village and portions of Reynolds Avenue.
Move for approval.
I think this is a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Public
Yes.
hearing.
All right. Any questions by council? Sir? Eileen's a coming.
Okay, this ordinance will allow those properties shown on the maps that are included with the ordinance to be developed or redeveloped without the need to provide on-street parking, a parking agreement, or a parking variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The relief is limited to certain lots in the East Montague, Sproul, and Reynolds Avenue areas. Although many of the lots and buildings predate the city in those areas, the zoning regulations, parking standards, these properties are currently required to provide off-street parking as new businesses move in or new buildings are built. Due to the established character of these areas, staff recommends approval of the ordinance, and the Planning Commission is scheduled to consider this ordinance on, and this is a change from what you have in your packet, on November 14th. Thus, the second reading of this ordinance won't be heard by council until November. We had a little scheduling problem.
I'll just call you tomorrow because I still don't understand, but it's late. So I'll call you tomorrow and ask you questions. And ask you some more questions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. I think we'll refer this to the council and have some discussion on it.
Yeah.
I think it's too involved for us to just change it through this procedure here. I think our council needs to discuss it in detail. If you want to have a special meeting, or if you're not going to be there next week, I think at some point in time we need to meet as a council and go over what they're trying to do.
I think, I'm not trying to do anything. What I think is that that's the purpose of the committee setting, is for the council to discuss it and either work for it or against it. It's up to the body.
Well, since you need to be there because you're going to be the major player in it.
I'm the major player in everything.
Yes, you are.
I don't think it's a big deal, but I still just don't understand it quite, you know.
Sure.
So I just going to call you and you could break it down to me
Yes,
some
ma'am.
more. Thank you, baby. Thank you.
We can, without objection, then we can send this to the committee meeting, not this month, but the following month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without objection of the body.
That will allow it to go to planning commission in the interim, so that
Right.
we'll have a recommendation, or we can hold it and not take it to
Go on
planning commission.
and, get that done. Get all the stuff done before the end of the year.
Okay.
All right.
This
will be sent to the Public Safety Committee, which will meet.
is a public hearing.
This is an advertised public hearing. Anyone want to speak? Let's make this simple. Anybody want to speak? We're going to send it to the Public Safety Committee meeting in November. Okay. Madam Clerk. Go ahead.
The last item on the agenda is a request to approve 3 reappointments to the North Charleston Sewer District Commission / North Charleston Public Service District. They are Ms. Jorinda Doctor, Mr. Clifford Johnson, and Mr. George Gomes.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome? Aye. Ms. Jameson?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson?
He had to be
Oh,
excused.
he's gone. Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Sunny.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Anything else to come before the body?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I know it's late and we've been here for a long time, but I just wanted to thank you and everybody who works for the city of North Charleston for their responsiveness with the storm, both pre-storm, after the storm, the information flow, the professionalism should be well commended, and it's very much appreciated. So, and please pass that along to the department heads and everybody that works for the city. Thank you, sir.
Let me take an opportunity to give an attaboy to Mr. Barfield, Butch Barfield. Butch was our director of this for us, and we created this position about 2 years ago, and he's been going through constant training, and I was shocked how much he learned, but it went good. Bring you a little sidebar. I think everybody on TV saw the interpreter for the governor. Okay,
Left him.
you know where he lives?
In Charleston.
North Charleston. He does. And in fact, the city's helping him because of him being away from his home, they lost all their food. And so we've been working with agencies helping his family because he does have children. But we've been thinking about hiring him to come here and do a little bit. As you notice, sometimes I get a little comical, and he might take away from my show. Thank you for doing that, but I do. Anytime you get someone in staff that the department heads clap for, that's quite an achievement, and Butch got that this week. So.
Oh, yeah.